So the final few corners to be done for this formation lap. Just to remind you that we do have hybrid in use once again in this race, as will be for the full season. But again, we switch things around. So those on the front row of the grid, both Rob Huff and Aidan Moffat, as they finish down outside the top 7, they'll get the full usage of 8 laps for hybrid, 50% boost they'll get across the course of the race. So they have that for them to use. Then Adam Morgan, who finished in 7th, he will have 7 laps of hybrid, 6 for Dan Camish, 5 laps for Colin Turkington, 4 for Josh Cook, 3 for Jake Hill, 2 for Ash Sutton from 8th place, and just the 1 lap of hybrid for Tom Ingram, race 2 winner from 9th on the grid. So those towards the front have a little bit more. Those further back who have done well today have the less hybrid to use. And of course, the higher you finished up in race number 1, you have a higher deployment minimum speed as well. So the likes of Ingram, Sutton and Jake Hill will not be able to use that hybrid until they get to a minimum speed of 135 kilometres an hour. The 2 ahead of them, in terms of Josh Cook and Colin Turkington, minimum deployment speed of 130 kilometres an hour, and then further up the grid, 125 is the minimum you can deploy that at. So they are the figures you need. And again, look towards the side panel of the car, because that's when you'll know they're on hybrid. If it goes blue, that is going to be for them using the hybrid. If it goes white, they're out of hybrid for that lap. And if it goes red, they've run out of deployment for the entire race. So they are the 3 colours you need to look forward to. Right then, we are ready to go. 18 laps of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship once again. The conditions are perfect. Sun shines on Donington Park to end the first meeting of the year. 18 laps gets underway now, and it's a great start, as expected again from the BMWs. And it's going to be Adam Morgan who charges through. All of a sudden, straight across the track there went Aidan Moffat to make sure that Colin Turkington was in another BMW that made his way through. So one goes to the lead, the other one of Colin Turkington round the outside of Aidan Moffat. But how tricky will he make it? Fairly tricky, but Colin Turkington's through, and now Aidan has the other one to worry about, Jake Hill, who has made a good start as well, up into 5th place. So they work their way down through the crane of curves for the first time. So that means Huffy's down to 2nd. Bit of contact between Morgan and Moffat. Turkington and Moffat. So it's Turkington who gets a bit of rubbing into the back there from Aidan Moffat. So he wasn't quite happy with that move that was done at the first corner. So Moffat fights back in the Toyota Corolla, and he will get down the inside line of 4-time champion Colin Turkington. But they still run side by side through McLean's corner, and it's now going to be a drag race up the hill in towards the right-hander for Coppis. And for the inside line, Aidan Moffat has the corner, and he should have the place as well. But all these drivers, they'll be looking to use hybrid as much as possible. Aidan Moffat trying to chop to the inside as quick as possible there, and is lucky not to be contact between those 2 cars. But with all the squabbling, it does mean that Adam Morgan and Rob Huff at the end of this first lap have a fairly comfortable lead over the rest of the pack. So BMW leads Corolla, then it's going to be Corolla and BMW, and then the fight for 5th place is on as well, because we're going to fan out 3 wide with Jake Hill and Josh Cook, and on the outside there it's going to be the car of Ash Sutton. So he is the one in the mix. And for Dan Camish, he has a torrid first lap of the race, because a man who started in 4th position, as there's drama at turn 1, because we've got one of the Corollas out wide of Andrew Watson, the other one involved there as well, possibly Dan Rowbottom. They both rejoined the circuit after a bit of a melee through the first corner. But I was just about to say, Dan Camish has had a really poor first lap. He's down to 11th position, so something has happened on that first lap as Ash Sutton now finds his way through on Josh Cook. Very good friends are they, former teammates as well back in the day, are both Ash Sutton and Josh Cook. But on this occasion, Ash Sutton does get the better of the number 66 machine, and Tom Ingram's going to try and find his way through as well. He doesn't want to be delayed in the process. He wants to try and keep as close to Ash Sutton as possible. Although he leads the championship coming into this final race of the day, he will want to try and keep that gap as big as possible and make sure that Ash Sutton doesn't bring back as many points as necessary. And he does make fairly light work of Josh Cook in towards the final chicane, does Tom Ingram. So he now moves his way up into 7th position. Ash Sutton now setting his sights on Jake Hill. So that Napa Racing Ford Focus looking really quick indeed. He might only have 2 laps of hybrid. He's been making the move down the inside of Jake Hill, and he squeezes his way through. So the Laser Tools BMW is 4 slightly wide there. And Ash Sutton, as quick as he's got past the car behind, is then past another one. So he's on the charge, albeit with some damage on that car already after that forceful move, you could say, down towards the first corner. But Ash Sutton making progress now inside the top 5. And we are only on lap 3 of this race. And a big moment in the background for Daryl De Leon, who goes backwards into the gravel trap at the old hairpin. Needs to be a little bit gentle on that accelerator. He might be able to escape, but if he's not, he might then dig himself a little bit deeper into the trap. So Daryl De Leon, after a great first weekend to start the year. Unfortunately, it's come to nothing in this final race, which means we are going to have the deployment of the safety car. So everyone backs off the pace. Hopefully they've all seen it, which they have. And we will now be under the control of Scott Stringfellow and the Porsche, which will head down to the circuit ready to bring the field under control. So Adam Morgan won't mind this too much. He didn't have the biggest of leads, so he's not going to lose a huge amount to Rob Huff, to be fair, but he will now just have to control himself and make sure he keeps the tyre temperature up as best as possible, because when we go back to green flag, you want to try and have the steal and the march over Rob Huff to make sure there's no challenge on the run down towards turn one. But Daryl De Leon is all good. He jumps out of the car to a place of safety. But for Ronan Pearson, there is a bit of grass, to say the least, in the front of that car. So Ronan works his way down the pit lane. It should be a quick fix, I think, for Ronan. Just kind of sweep it out and send him back on his way.
I hope so. It made a bit of a rattle when it came past
Did
me.
it?
So, yeah, let's have a look. I'm not going to go all the way down there. It's just about halfway down the pit lane. I can see licks of flame from the front of the car, but that's inevitable. If there's lots of grass in there and the brakes run very hot, then that's inevitable. But maybe there is a little bit more than normal down there at Ronan Pearson's car, and marshals are making their way down there. It's when the car comes to a stop and you don't have the airflow, that's when the grass will catch fire on the brakes. And nothing to worry about. Yep, they've scooped it all out. They've sent him on his way.
All clear for Ronan Pearson then as he heads back onto the circuit. Just watching a few replays. One of Ash Sutton just getting to the inside. I think he had the line there, and Jake Hill, even though Ashton was alongside, didn't really want to give the place away, but there was a bit of brief contact between the two of them, and Ash Sutton was then eventually through. Replay of the start from our pole sitter, Rob Huff, and he had a good start, did Rob, but as we know, the BMWs are just very quick away from the line. These rear-wheel drive cars just don't need any invitation, do they? When they get a good start, they just fly through the order. And Adam Morgan was, again, just like we saw in race number 1 earlier today, where the BMWs of both Colin Turkington and Jake Hill found their way through on Tom Ingram and Ash Sutton. Didn't last for long because they both fought back, but the BMWs, yes, they are quick starters, but they then take a little bit more time to get those tyres up to temperature. So if you can strike back early on, it is more favourable for you. Front-on view of what happened on the big screens. Rob Huff, Aidan Moffat was aware. He was trying to get to the inside of the track as quick as possible. One went through. He wasn't really going to let the second one through, but then with the run down towards the first corner, Colin Turkington was on the outside. Aidan just got a little bit bulked there by Rob Huff, so that gave the momentum a second swing for Colin Turkington. And then he had to defend from Jake Hill, who was also looking racy down through Hollywood as well. So BMWs currently sit 1st, 4th and 6th. Huff and Moffat and Sutton have all retaliated effectively and find themselves up there in the top 5 as well.
I think Ronan Pearson's car has just come back, hasn't it, down pit lane. Was that Ronan's car?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so all is not well. It wasn't just a question of getting the grass out from that car, I don't think.
No, so not good for Ronan, not good for Darrell either. He stands by the wayside, watches his Cupra being pulled through the access gate. And, yeah, Ronan Pearson's car with, as you said, the grass was clear, but it didn't sound healthy, did it, past you? So there may be a slight issue with it elsewhere within the engine bay. So team's having a quick listen. Ronan will be reporting back what the issue may be and what it is not doing. So they might be able to get it back out, but it will then eventually be a lap down because the safety car is about to come back in. So the quick work once again of the marshals down at the old hairpin have cleared the car of Daryl De Leon, and we are good to go once again. So the BMWs are hard workers in terms of getting their tyres up to temperature. So Rob Huff, if he wants to get the job done, he might as well do it early. Let's see what they can do. Ash Sutton quite close to the back of Colin Turkington as well as we get this race back underway. And can Ash go for the dive in towards the first corner? Jake Hill's going defensive because he's got Tom Ingram all over the back of him like a cheap suit at the minute. But on the exit of the corner, Tom Ingram is not able to get himself through. So down through Hollywood they go with an added 2 laps to this race. So 2 laps under safety car. We can add a maximum of 3, but 2 just needed after that one, and Morgan down towards the old hairpin, all safely through on this restart lap. Looking at the gap, see what's happening further back. We've got Chris Smiley under attack here from Sam Osborne. So after his moment in race number 1, which is a DNF. Oh, and a big lock up for the race leader, Adam Morgan. We did say that those tyres do take a little bit of work in. He's run wide, and he does let Rob Huff go through. So Morgan wide. Rob Huff goes back to the lead of the race, and with it, Aidan Moffat and also Morgan's teammate, Colin Turkington, go through as well. So a big mistake to make on that lap, and the cold tyres definitely telling there for Adam Morgan. I think he's on the hybrid. Yes, he is, to try and keep himself ahead of teammate Colin Turkington. And that extra 50% boost does give him a nice healthy run down towards the Robert chicane. So mistake for Adam Morgan. Just took a little bit too much curb, and with it, with those left-hand tyres off the circuit, couldn't quite get the car stopped, and then too much speed into the corner, just pushed him wide and let all three through. So off we go once again with a new race leader. The pole sitter now back out front once again. Rob Huff leads Aidan Moffat down the hill. Adam Morgan now sits in third place. Just managed to hang on ahead of Colin Turkington, who seems to be under pressure here from Ash Sutton, who he is. Ash Sutton, can he go all the way around the outside in towards the Craner curves? Nope. He then switches back to the outside, which almost leaves the door open for Jake Hill to squeeze the number 24 machine through, but doesn't quite come to anything there. But Ash Sutton, again, he knows what the BMWs are like on their tyres, and knows he needs to strike as early as possible, and couldn't quite get the job done there on Colin Turkington. But promising for last year's champion, the 4-time champion now within the BTCC, just like that man ahead of him, Colin Turkington. Both of them looking for a record-breaking 5th title at the end of this year. But if this weekend is anything to go by, it could be up for grabs for any one of these 20 drivers. We're side by side further back now. That is Josh Cook, who is trying to defend from Dan Camish after his sluggish start, now trying to get some places away from the number 66 machine. And just behind Dan Camish is the first of the Vauxhall Astras in the hands of number 40, which is Aaron Taylor-Smith. So through they all go. We've got the full complement, apart from Darryl de Leon and Ronan Pearson, who still remains in the pit lane, but the rest of them all work their way now on this 8th lap down through the right-hander of Redgate. Andrew Watson gets hung out to dry there by Aaron Taylor-Smith, but he wasn't having any of that. He uses his hybrid all the way down the hill, and Andrew Watson does get back ahead of the Vauxhall Astra, and Tom Chilton's trying to get himself into the mix as well. Now, a nice move from Tom at the very last minute, and it now means that both the Toyota Corolla and the Hyundai have gone through. And will Mikey Doble go past his teammate as well? Yes, he will, all the way around the outside on that wet curb, which caught out Stephen Jelly in the Porsche race. Mikey Doble was just briefly attached to that as well, and if they're not both careful, it's going to be Sam Osborne who takes the 2 places away as well. The Napa Racing Ford Focus on the outside line in towards Coppice. Sorry, it's Dan Rowbottom, isn't it? Not Sam Osborne. So Dan Rowbottom in car number 32 is going to try and take the 2 places away. He'll get 1, and will he be on his hybrid down the back straight? Yes, he will, and he'll get the 2 of them. So there goes Rowbottom now up into what should be something like 13th place by the looks of it. So that was a great dice outside the top 10. Meantime, Rob Huff comes through still in the lead. He is also with the quickest lap of the race on a 109.338, and he leads that of Aidan Moffat by just under 0.7 of a second as it sits. Same gap back now to Adam Morgan in 3rd place. Sam Osborne's car's looking a little bit worse for wear, unfortunately. The left front has encountered some damage, and let's have a look at the replay to see how that possibly came about. Maybe some contact with the... Oh, it's already came off without making contact. So maybe earlier on in the lap where he's just made contact and now finally fell off the car. But Sam Osborne still runs. 15th position ahead of Chris Smiley, Scott Sumpton and Nick Houster towards the back. So the top 2 up towards Coppice Corner. All of a sudden, Aidan Moffat has closed that gap to the race leader. So Rob Huff with 7 laps of hybrid still remaining. So 1 lap has been used by him. Aidan Moffat behind sits on 6 laps, and none of them are on it down the back straight. So they're saving Naz for potentially the latter stages of this race. Morgan has 3 laps of hybrid, and Turkington has 2 laps remaining. And those 2 BMWs now, very close quarters as they cross the line, joined by Ash Sutton in 5th position. Morgan goes for a defensive line in towards the first corner. Turkington then sits on the outside. Jake Hill looking to get his place back away from Ash Sutton, but again, he wasn't quite close enough to make the move, but he might then lose the place on the exit because Tom Ingram's going to try and squeeze through. There's the grass to contend with for Tingram, who's been a 2-time winner so far today, but Jake Hill again was not having any of that, was he? So he sits in formation, and now Ash Sutton goes for a move to take the place away from one of the BMWs, and that will see him through past Colin Turkington. And as they work their way through Starkeys, Turkington then, with that slow run through the old hairpin, almost lost a further place to his teammate. So it's kind of this knock-on effect. You kind of lose a place, you get pushed offline, and then with that, you lose the momentum through this sweeping corner. And we're going to have a change for the lead as well, because Aidan Moffat takes the place away from Rob Huff. So Moffat now moves to the lead. He has 1 lap less of hybrid, and he's on the hybrid this time as well. So it'll be down to 5 laps for Aidan Moffat. Was it a mistake for Rob Huff? No, not really. Aidan just used a little bit more of the exit curb. And with that, the momentum, the word we'll use throughout this race, was carried by Aidan Moffat. So he goes through. He was on the hybrid, which now drops him down to 5. Huff didn't use his hybrid that time through, so he remains still with 2 laps better off hybrid in this race. So that could be another thing to factor in towards the closing stages now as we enter lap number 11. Huff this time is on the hybrid. He's using it to attack. Aidan Moffat is using it to defend as they run down through the left-hander of the Craner curves. All of this battling is not really delaying them, but Rob Huff does fight back. The former World Touring Car champion, former racer within the British Touring Car Championship back in the early noughties. He's now back ahead of Aidan Moffat. Briefly, he's on the hybrid once again as he heads uphill through the left-hander of Schwantz in towards the right-hander with the left rear, just locking up slightly. He will run wide once again on the exit of the corner, and it's going to be deja vu almost for Aidan Moffat to take the lead back. But on that occasion, Rob Huff was very quick to get to the inside line and make sure that was covered off. So Aidan Moffat again on the hybrid. You can see the blue light flashing in the side of the car if you're on the back straight. Down he goes again to the inside of Rob Huff. So another change of lead within this race. Both of those are scoring points for leading a race within the BTCC as well. So 1 point for Moffat, 1 point for Rob Huff as well. Aidan Moffat gets a bit squirrely on the exit of the corner. So we're going to have a drag race down towards Redgate for the umpteenth time of asking. This time though, Aidan Moffat has the line covered. The BMWs are also starting to come into the mix within this race. Morgan now back up into second place with a nice move there on Rob Huff. There's a bit of contact between the two of them on the exit of the corner, but again with Rob Huff just about staying ahead. I think that was without the use of hybrid, and Morgan wasn't using it either, so that was pure pace for Rob Huff within this race as they turn their way in towards the old hairpin once again. So what we had with 2 for the lead, we've now got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you could say, all in contention for this final race win of the weekend. Tom Ingram is the man at the back of that, 2-time winner so far. And I think Rob Huff will now lose out to Colin Turkington. No, it's Adam Morgan, isn't it, who goes through first. Colin Turkington, though, will benefit because he gets to the inside of both of them. And Colin Turkington goes back up into second position. And Ash Sutton is coming through as well. Last year's champion gets to the inside almost of Rob Huff. I think it'll be wise now for Huffy to get on that hybrid to try and keep Ash Sutton at bay, because Sutton at the minute has just 1 lap of hybrid use. So Huff is in a more beneficial position, but Sutton does get the place away from Rob Huff. So all of a sudden, Rob Huff was in the lead of the race. He's now down to 4th position. So he is struggling, but he's on the hybrid at the end of that lap to keep himself as best as possible ahead of the next of the BMWs, which is in line, and that is the one of number 20, Colin Turkington. But it's Ingram to the inside. So the Hyundai has got past Jake Hill and now Colin Turkington on those 2 subsequent laps. So 1 lap he was ahead of Jake Hill. The next lap that we just started, he's now ahead of Colin Turkington, and Jake Hill has got past his teammate as well. So up inside the top 5, I think it will be. Lots of action happening here. This is the equivalent of what we have with the hybrid, just adjustments from last year, really giving us some fantastic close racing. So lots of changes towards the head of the order, but the one out front, Aidan Moffat, still has a fairly comfortable lead. But how long that will last for, not too sure. Still plenty of laps to go. It'll be 7 at the end of this one. It's now going to be Tingram who fights his way through on Rob Huff. So Rob now just starting to drop like a stone, unfortunately. Once you get hung out to dry by one car, that just becomes more and more apparent. So Jake Hill gets his way through. Jake there possibly on hybrid as he goes to the inside of Tom Ingram, and Tom Ingram has no choice but go to the shortcut of the Robert chicane. Rob Huff has to do exactly the same. Almost makes contact with Jake Hill as he comes back onto the circuit, but Huffy drops down the order. Tingram goes through after that slight bit of contact with Jake Hill. Both of them couldn't fit through the chicane, so Tom Ingram went for the safer option to shortcut it and get through the other side unscathed. Otherwise, if they had made contact, that could have been a very hairy moment down there with the tyres. So Tom Ingram, yeah, Jake Hill was maybe not enough alongside to make the move work there. That'll be at the discretion of the drivers, but I'm not too sure race control will have anything to say about that. It was a bit of contact, and as I said, Tom Ingram had no real choice. He was either going to bin it or just work his way through the chicane there without any contact. So Tingram comes through in 4th place. Aidan Moffat's lead has been cut over the last lap because all of a sudden Turkington now clear, and with some good speed in that BMW, it is starting to work his way onto the rear of the race leader. So nothing to choose between the top 2. Sutton is just about going with them as well. So it's a 3-car train for the lead of the race. 4th place now for Tom Ingram. 5th place is, I still think, Jake Hill. Let's have a look as they come through the final corner. Yep, he's still there in 5th. 6th place then for the car of Adam Morgan. And starting to fight back now is going to be that of Rob Huff. And I just saw that the side of Morgan's car had gone red. That does mean to us he has lost his hybrid for the rest of this race. Huffy hasn't. He has still got what seems to be 3 laps remaining. So he's going to try and get the move done on Morgan down through Hollywood. Let's see how that all shapes out as they come back into sight in towards the old hairpin. And Huffy is through. Yep, so past Adam Morgan he has gone. That sees him up into 6th place. And Turkington is going to try and go for the lead now because Moffat out front with 3 laps remaining in the hybrid use. Colin Turkington in 2nd place has none left, but he has just gone and set the quickest lap of this race. So the BMW is now starting to work well in these conditions. 109.336 was that quickest lap from the man in 2nd place, Colin Turkington. But again, on the side of his car, just like Adam Morgan, you will see now the red panel, which indicates he has run out of hybrid for the rest of this race. So none for him to use. Moffat, though, will have to use his in a defensive capacity for the time being. If he does get past, he then, if he has any left, will try and use it in an attacking capacity once again. But Moffat across the line, he is using it. I can see the blue flashing light there, so he's down to 2 laps, and we've got 5 to go. So he will be without hybrid for 3 laps. Which 3 laps they will be is entirely up to Aidan Moffat. But the top 3 now, with a bit of a buffer over Tom Ingram in 4th place. He is 1.7 seconds back in that number 80 machine. 5th place for still number 24, Jake Hill. Rob Huff, as we described to you, back up into 6th place ahead of Adam Morgan. And Dan Rowbottom also got a place away from Josh Cook on that previous lap as well. So Robo up now ahead of Josh Cook. And Dan Camish, after, again, an unknown in this race, not too sure what's happened to him, but Dan Camish finds himself down in 10th position in that number 27 Napa Racing Ford Focus. So we'll see if he can take anything away from those ahead. He's only 0.4 of a second back, and to be fair, there's only 1/10 of a second which separate 6th on backwards. So there's still plenty of shuffling to be done within the rear end of the top 10. But for now, Aidan Moffat is the man who's having to work his little socks off because Colin Turkington, with a very quick team BMW machine, looking to get the move done. And Aidan Moffat, without hybrid here, might be a little bit under pressure. Across the line he goes once again. Don't think he used it that time, did Moffat, because he still has 2 laps remaining. So if he can work to keep him behind, then that is another lap he doesn't have to use hybrid. If he can use them in the last 2 laps to try and hold on to the race win, that would be more beneficial for Aidan Moffat. So the Toyota Corolla in the hands of Aidan works his way down through Hollywood once again. 2nd still Turkington. Sutton there in 3rd, but it's now Tom Ingram with his clear air who has just set the quickest lap of the race, a 109.257. So Tingram is coming, and again, could he be a triple race winner in one day? It hasn't happened that often, but Tingram would love to do it, and as I said, he's getting closer and closer to those 3 ahead now. 1.4 seconds back. On that previous lap, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than the car ahead. He was half a second quicker than the race leader. So the race leader, Aidan Moffat, is just the cork in the bottle at the minute. But if he can do a really good defensive drive, he will hang on, and it will bring, as I said, Tom Ingram and maybe Jake Hill back into the equation as well, because Jake Hill is only 3/4 back from the man in 4th position. So yeah, with Aidan Moffat having to go for a defensive line through the corners, that slows every single person up behind. And then the car with clear air gets there a little bit quicker. So with now what's going to be 3 laps to go, Moffat does still lead, but the gap down to pretty much nothing. 1/4 of a second, which separate the top 2. And it's less than 1/4 of a second, which separate 2nd and 3rd. And what Aidan Moffat will be praying for is that Colin Turkington gets some pressure from Ash Sutton. If the pressure is taken off Aidan Moffat, because of Ash Sutton, then it might be good news for Aidan. But again, he's defending well down through the old hairpin. Can he do this for the next 2.5 laps? It's going to be a really hard task for Aidan, but he's driving a fantastic race. Still has 2 laps of hybrid remaining. No laps, of course, as we know, for Colin Turkington. Just the 1 remaining for Ash Sutton. So in this race, Ash has only used 1 lap of hybrid. Of course, he came into this race with 2. So 1 remains for the man in 3rd place. Tingram, who had 1 lap to use, he has still got that 1 lap. He hasn't used any in this race so far. He's saving it for the last lap maybe, because as he gets closer and closer, that will be again where he needs to use it to try and take an attack on Ash Sutton. Aidan Moffat has used it on this lap, so he just pulls the gap briefly over Colin Turkington. That might give him just a couple more tenths as they cross the line to start the penultimate lap of the race, and the gap has grown to almost half a second. So hybrid is beneficial, and you can see that in the gap, and it does just take the pressure away from Aidan Moffat once again on the run down towards Redgate Corner. So first, second and third together. Colin Turkington slightly wide there, so he now starts to feel the pressure, and maybe these tyres just starting to drop off on the BMW. So he is there as he works his way down through the crane of curves. Ash Sutton now is starting to sniff blood, isn't he? Because he knows that Turkington's starting to move around. The tyre's not quite lasting at the minute, so Sutton starts to hound the back of Colin Turkington. Tingram, by the way, has done another good lap there, half a second quicker than Ash Sutton ahead of him, which means the gap between him and the third place car is down to half a second. So they are absolutely flying. I think Sutton's on the hybrid this lap as well. You can see that on the big screens because he's right on the tail of Colin Turkington. So will it be the attack this time? I don't think Aidan Moffat is on his hybrid. He'll be saving that for the last lap just in case he needs it in a defensive capacity. Ash Sutton looks all over the back of Colin Turkington down towards the Robert chicane. Hill's also looking all over the back of Tingram behind. So we've got a 5-car train for the lead of this race as we start the last lap of the final race of the weekend for the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Aidan Moffat now, with the one lap, will be looking to defend because they're all defending, mainly Colin Turkington because Ash Sutton now is right there. Good to see that the gold number plate has been reattached to Sutton's car. So after missing that in race 2, it is now back on the front of that Ford Focus Napa racing machine. And after Sutton looking to attack Colin Turkington, he now has to defend because Tingram is looking quite racy. And out of those top 5, it's only Tom Ingram and Aidan Moffat who have the hybrid left. And here comes Tom Ingram looking to get the move done on Ash Sutton on the inside of Schwantz Curve. Ash Sutton gets a little bit leery on the rear end as they turn their way through the right-hander of McLean's and up towards Coppice for the first time. Let's see if Aidan Moffat can hold on for 2 more corners. Sutton's looking a little bit ragged now on the last lap as he works his way on towards the back straight. Tom Ingram has a little bit more of the hybrid remaining, but he can't find his way through. They come 3 wide down towards Robert chicane for the final time, but Aidan Moffat looking good for a victory. A man who scored his maiden BTCC win here at Donington Park in race 1 back in 2017 is back on the top step of the podium. Aidan Moffat wins the final race of the British Touring Car Championship this weekend at Donington Park, and that was a fantastic defensive drive from Aidan Moffat. And it just shows that hybrid does work in both an attacking format and also in a defensive format as well. So well done to Aidan Moffat. A fantastic drive for him, and he is going to be a happy chappy after one of the drives of his life. The team are ecstatic down there as well. The LKQ Euro Parts team with Cinetec, they are all celebrating on the pit wall as well. So a tremendous job from Aidan Moffat. It wasn't quite going to be the story of Rob Huff from last to first at the end of the weekend, but it is going to be a Toyota Corolla which wins the final race of the day here at Donington Park. So a slow down lap there for Aidan Moffat. The rest of the top 10 as follows. Colin Turkington finishes in 2nd position. Ash Sutton comes through in 3rd place. So Ash Sutton with a good points scoring weekend with that final result. 4th place goes the way of Tom Ingram. He missed out by just 0.3 of a second. He saved his only lap of hybrid until the very last lap, and he almost had the job done, but unfortunately for Tingram, Sutton was a little bit too strong to get past there. So Tingram for 4th. 5th place goes the way of Jake Hill in the 2nd of the BMWs. Rob Huff for 6th place at the end of that race after starting from pole position. 7th place goes the way of Adam Morgan. Led the race early on there, but unfortunately that BMW just dropped away in the closing stages as well. Dan Rowbottom comes through in 8th place to make it Napa Racing 2 cars, in fact 3 cars it will be inside the top 10 by the time they get to the checker flag. 9th place goes the way of Josh Cook in the 2nd of the Toyota Corollas that share the same team banner as Aidan Moffat, so both of those finish inside the top 10, and then to round out your top 10 it will be Dan Camish in car number 27 as some of the cars are waved through, but it's going to be our race winner to come into the pit lane. As I said, his maiden BTCC race win came here at Donington Park back in 2017. 7 years later, he is back on the top step once again, and a very happy Aidan Moffat it will be indeed. So our top three are ushered into the TOCA technical area. All the checks that need to be done with the weight, and also making sure that the ride height is absolutely correct as well. And as soon as that is done, he'll be waved through, and he'll be working his way to a hefty celebration. I'm sure it's fair to say on his way back to wherever he lives. He's a Scotsman. Not too sure if he still lives in Scotland, but if it is, it's going to be a nice trip home this evening for Aidan Moffat. But all looking good as he works his way on to the scales. Just to complete the rest of the order, 11th place for Tom Chilton, 12th place for Andrew Watson, 13th for Mikey Doble, and then behind that 14th for Aaron Taylor-Smith, 15th for Sam Osborne, 16th for Scott Sumpton, and the final finisher is that of Nick Halstead in 17th position. But you, Alan, have a race winner, Aidan Moffat, back to the top step of the podium.
I certainly do, and I'm pretty sure he does still live in Scotland, but he might be travelling back tomorrow, I've got a feeling, because he is delighted, punches the air inside the car. The family are here, the team are here, and I'm sure Bob is not going to be far away. His father, no, just to 1 o'clock. Listen to the cheer as he stands on the side of the car, absolutely elated, slams the car door shut and goes straight over to the team. A big hug, Mum's there. They're all there. They all want to congratulate Aidan. Absolutely delighted for him. Still got his helmet on at the moment, but he's elated. As you say, Matt, he goes so well here at Donington Park, and he was determined. Had to really think about that as well. Make sure that he was absolutely certain that the deployment of hybrid was at the right point during that race. Drove extremely clever race. Colin Turkington comes to a stop. He can witness all the celebrations that are going on beside him and in front of him, and Colin's about to get himself unstrapped from the car. Although ITV are here, I'm not sure. I can go in, but Aidan's still got his helmet on, because everyone wants a word with Aidan. Everyone wants a hug, and Bob comes up to give a dad hug, and I tell you what, Aidan is absolutely elated with this. He's just getting his helmet off. I can emotional, delighted, all of those words. I can sum it up. You drove a brilliant race.
Yeah, I mean, it just means so much, that one, after the last 2 seasons we've had. Yep. You know, it's been a difficult 2 years for us, and after a few good years before that, you think, bloody hell, have I lost it?
Oh, yeah, what's going wrong?
Yeah, so, I mean, I needed a good year this year. That was the motivation behind this year, was I need to get back to winning races. Didn't think it happened at the first round.
First meeting of the year. I mean, Donington is a good circuit for you anyway.
It has, but bloody hell, it's been a while since I got my first win here, is it not?
2017.
So, been a good circuit 7 years ago. So, no, it's just fantastic, you know, and the Speedworks gang have done a hell of a few long shifts recently, getting everything right. We've had our moments where life's been hard, but the guys and girls have just kept working so hard. So, LKQ, Euro Car Parks, Synetic, thank you for all the support making this year happen, and it's just great to be not just that reverse grid win. We had the pace yesterday, and a few bits of bad luck meant we started at the back. Our pace was never 18th, it was always at top 5. So yeah, the podium was them, but I'll take a first.
It's going to be the top step. Aidan, I bet you're travelling home tomorrow now, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a few bottles of red wine waiting for me in about 10 minutes' time.
I think you might be right, Aidan. Go and see Louise. She'll chat to you on ITV. Colin's already doing his debrief with Dick Bennett, but comes over to congratulate Aidan. And so does Dick as well. Gives him a handshake. And Ash Sutton has already come to a stop. I think I could go over and talk to Ash. He's talking to the team at the moment. Boy, that was hard.
Oh, that was chaos, wasn't it?
It was a bit. I mean, great to watch. When you watch it back, you'll enjoy.
Yeah, it was mega. I mean, from our side, it was awesome. There were some good moves getting put in. It really played into obviously showing how strong that hybrid is. So, I mean, the closing rate that Colin had on me was obscene. So, really pleased with that. We made really good progress. Happy with that. Happy with the balance. It was a tough one defending from Tom on that last lap. I had no hybrid, he did, but just covered that one. So
super, Ash. Thank you so much for talking to us. He'll be talking to Louise Goodman in a moment. And what about Colin? He's still doing his his debrief. You're smiling. You've got a new toy to play with.
Yeah, obviously we're talking hybrid there.
I knew you were.
Yeah, it's you know, it works for you and it works against you. You know, sometimes you think you've got the move done, and you know, the guy you're trying to pass deploys and away he goes. So, but it worked in my favour as well. You know, I was able to, you know, Ash got me into Old Turpin, but then I was able to gun him coming out of Coppice. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But Aidan ahead, you know, I had the pace, but Aidan had a couple of extra laps up his sleeve, and he knew it. So he was saving them for the last few laps. So
you're loving this, aren't you?
Yeah, it was fun. Very stressful, but it's fun when it works out.
It's a super race to watch back, and I'm sure you will, Colin. Thanks very much indeed for having a talk to us. We'll have our podium for the final race of the day in a few minutes' time, but it's the final touring car race. It's not the final race of the day because we've got our second Legends Cars race coming up. But I need to get myself over to the podium. There are plenty of prizes to give out.